"Grandma, if Grandpa Harrison owns the house, why does everyone act like he doesn't?" The question came from 8-year-old Noah at exactly the wrong moment. Or perhaps, as I would later learn, exactly the right one. The sound of silverware against fine china stopped almost instantly. For a second, the massive dining room of Whitmore Estate seemed to forget how to breathe. Crystal chandeliers glowed above us. Candlelight reflected across polished oak. Outside the tall windows, the last light of a cold autumn evening settled over the rolling lawns. Inside, every member of my family suddenly became fascinated with something other than the child who had just spoken. I remained seated at the center of the table, my hands folded neatly in my lap. Across from me, David lowered his wine glass without taking a sip. Beside him, Isabel's perfect smile froze for the briefest fraction of a second before returning as if nothing had happened. At the far end of the table sat Harrison. His gray hair was as untamed as ever. His denim jacket looked out of place among tailored suits and old money elegance. Most guests would have mistaken him for an invited outsider. Yet he showed no surprise at Noah's question. He simply continued cutting his steak as though he had heard nothing at all. That bothered me more than the silence. "Sweetheart," Isabel said finally, her voice smooth and effortless. "Children hear all kinds of stories." A few nervous laughs followed. Too quick, too rehearsed. Noah frowned. "But James told me Grandpa Harrison built this place." The laughter died even faster than it had arrived. Near the staircase, Ethan looked up from his plate. I noticed the change in his expression immediately. Curiosity. Real curiosity. The kind that refuses to disappear. James, our loyal family butler for nearly 30 years, suddenly became very interested in adjusting a serving tray. Thomas Bennett, the family attorney, removed his glasses and cleaned lenses that were already spotless. Around me, small movements revealed large fears. I had spent decades protecting this family's secrets. I knew what guilt looked like. I knew what panic looked like. And for the first time in years, I saw both sitting openly at my dinner table. Harrison finally raised his eyes and looked directly at me. It lasted no more than a second. Yet something passed between us. A warning, a challenge, or perhaps an invitation. Whatever it was, I knew one thing before dessert was served. Noah's innocent question had not started a conversation. It had opened a door someone had spent years trying to keep locked. The dinner ended earlier than anyone expected. One by one, chairs slid back from the table and familiar excuses filled the room. David claimed he had an early meeting in the city. Isabel said Noah needed to get home and finish a school project. Victoria complained about a headache that had appeared with remarkable timing. Within 15 minutes, the great dining room that usually echoed with forced laughter and polished conversation had fallen nearly silent. I remained seated beneath the chandelier long after everyone else had begun leaving. The candles burned lower. Half-finished glasses of wine sat abandoned across the table. The room felt different now. Not empty. Exposed. As though something invisible had been pulled away. Through the tall windows, I watched headlights disappear down the long driveway leading from Whitmore Estate. Ethan lingered near the staircase. He pretended to check messages on his phone, but I knew he was watching everyone. His eyes followed Thomas Bennett as the attorney quietly collected a leather folder and headed toward the front entrance. Thomas rarely attended family dinners unless legal matters were involved. Tonight, he had arrived without explanation. That detail settled heavily in my mind. Harrison was the last to leave the table. He stood slowly, pushed back his chair, and adjusted the worn denim jacket that always seemed to irritate Isabel. For a moment, I thought he might say something. Instead, he glanced toward the enormous portrait hanging above the fireplace. It showed 3 generations of Whitmores standing proudly on the estate grounds. Harrison was not in the painting. He never had been. Then he walked away without a word. The grandfather clock in the hallway chimed 9 times. James appeared carrying a silver tray. "Would you like some tea, Mrs. Whitmore?" he asked. "I would like the truth," I replied. His hands froze briefly around the tray handles. It was a tiny reaction. Most people would have missed it. I did not. James lowered his eyes. "I am not sure what you mean." "Neither am I," said quietly. But everyone else at this table seemed to know exactly what Noah was talking about. He hesitated. Then he nodded once and excused himself. No denial. No explanation. Just silence. That was when I knew my instincts were right. Families hide many things. Affairs. Debts. Old resentments. But the fear I saw tonight was different. It was deeper, more practiced. Upstairs, a door closed softly somewhere in the vast house. I looked again toward the portrait above the fireplace. For decades I had believed I understood every secret this family carried. Tonight, for the first time, I realized there was at least one secret that had been carefully hidden from me. I did not sleep much that night. Whitmore Estate had a way of becoming louder when everyone else was gone. Floorboards settled. Pipes whispered behind old walls. The wind moved through the trees outside my bedroom window. I sat awake in a chair beside the fireplace, replaying every expression from dinner. By morning, one face continued returning to me. Ethan. Unlike the others, he had not looked frightened. He had looked curious. After breakfast, I found him in the library. Sunlight streamed through tall windows and stretched across rows of leather-bound books collected over 3 generations. Ethan was standing beside a display cabinet, pretending to study a framed photograph. "You were thinking about last night," I said. He smiled faintly. Was it that obvious? Only to someone who has spent 70 years watching this family avoid uncomfortable truths. His smile disappeared. For a moment, neither of us spoke. Then he glanced toward the closed library doors. "Grandma, did you notice something strange?" I almost laughed. "You may need to be more specific." Ethan walked toward a bookshelf and lowered his voice. Everyone reacted before Noah even finished asking the question. I had noticed the same thing. The fear had come too quickly, too naturally, as though they had rehearsed it. Ethan reached into his jacket and removed a folded piece of paper. "I found this in Dad's study last month." My heartbeat slowed rather than quickened. Experience had taught me that the biggest discoveries often arrived quietly. The paper appeared old. A photocopy. Across the top was the name of a legal trust connected to the estate. Several names were listed beneath it. Some belonged to family members. One did not. Harrison Cole. I read the name twice. Then a third time. "Where did you get this?" I asked. It was hidden inside a folder labeled landscaping expenses. That detail alone told me someone wanted it overlooked. Ethan leaned closer. I asked Thomas about it once. He changed the subject so fast it practically gave me whiplash. I folded the paper carefully. Outside, a groundskeeper drove a small utility vehicle across the distant lawn. Everything looked normal. Perfect. Wealthy families often worked very hard to appear that way. "Do not tell anyone you showed me this," I said. Ethan nodded. "Because somebody is hiding something?" "No," I replied quietly. "Because I think several people are hiding the same thing." As Ethan left the library, my eyes drifted toward an old photograph hanging near the fireplace. It had been there for years. Somehow, I was seeing it for the first time. The photograph had hung in the library for as long as I could remember. Hundreds of times I had walked past it without giving it more than a passing glance. Now I stepped closer. The frame was old walnut, handcrafted sometime before David was born. Inside was a picture taken nearly 25 years earlier on the front steps of Whitmore Estate. Family members stood in neat rows, smiling politely for the camera. At first, nothing seemed unusual. Then I noticed Harrison. He was standing near the edge of the group. Not hidden exactly, but separated. Deliberately separated. Once I saw it, other memories began surfacing. Small things. Forgotten things. Moments that had never made sense. Harrison had lived on estate property for more than 2 decades. He attended family holidays. He appeared at charity events. He sat through board meetings. Yet nobody ever clearly explained why he was there. Children were told he was an old family friend. Guests heard different stories depending on who answered the question. Even stranger, despite his modest appearance, people listened when he spoke. Not publicly. Publicly they ignored him. But behind closed doors, decisions seemed to change after conversations with Harrison. I remembered a summer fundraiser 15 years ago. A major financial dispute had nearly divided the family. Everyone argued for hours. Then Harrison arrived late, spoke privately with Thomas Bennett, and the disagreement vanished overnight. At the time, I accepted the explanation given to me. Looking back, I realized there had never been an explanation. There had only been silence. That afternoon, I found James organizing records in a small office near the kitchen. Shelves filled with estate documents lined the walls. He looked up as I entered. "Mrs. Whitmore, how long has Harrison lived here?" I asked. James paused. "Not long. Just enough to reveal hesitation. A very long time." That was not my question. He lowered a folder onto the desk. Some things belong to the family history. I am the family history. The words escaped before I could stop them. James looked genuinely uncomfortable. For years, he had been one of the few people in this house I trusted completely. Now even he seemed trapped between loyalty and fear. Finally, he spoke. "You should ask Thomas." That answer told me more than any explanation could have. Thomas held the key. Not James. Not David. Not Isabel. The attorney. As I left the office, I noticed a black sedan turning into the estate entrance. Thomas Bennett had arrived again. 2 visits in less than 24 hours. Whatever secret had been sleeping inside this family for years, it was beginning to wake up. Thomas Bennett rarely appeared without a reason. That afternoon, he stepped from the black sedan carrying the same weathered leather briefcase I had seen for years. Through the library window, I watched him climb the front steps with the steady confidence of a man who knew exactly where every secret was buried. What surprised me was not his arrival. It was who met him at the door. Isabel. She was already waiting before James could even reach the entrance. The moment she saw Thomas, she guided him toward a side hallway instead of the main sitting room. It was subtle, polite, almost invisible, but I noticed. People who have nothing to hide do not redirect conversations before they begin. 10 minutes later, I walked down the same hallway. Their voices drifted from a small office near the west wing. The door was not fully closed. I was not trying to eavesdrop, yet one sentence stopped me cold. "If Eleanor finds out now, everything changes," Isabel said. Silence followed. Then Thomas replied in a voice too low to fully hear. I caught only a few words. Trust. Documents. Timing. My pulse remained calm, but my thoughts did not. I continued walking before either of them could notice my presence. By evening, the estate felt different again. Staff members moved carefully. Phone calls ended when someone entered a room. Even David seemed distracted during dinner. Twice I caught him staring toward Harrison's cottage near the edge of the property. Harrison himself never appeared. Shortly after sunset, Ethan knocked on my sitting room door. He carried a laptop beneath one arm and wore the expression of someone who had found something he could not explain. "You need to see this," he said. We sat together beside the fireplace. On the screen was a collection of public property records connected to Whitmore Estate. Most were ordinary. Tax filings, land surveys, historical registrations. Then Ethan opened a scanned document from nearly 22 years earlier. The property ownership structure had changed that year. Several names appeared. Some were familiar. One stood out immediately. Harrison Cole. Not as an employee, not as a consultant, not as a guest. His name appeared alongside individuals who possessed direct authority over the estate. I stared at the screen. For more than 2 decades, Harrison had been treated like an outsider. Yet on paper, he occupied a position that made no sense. Ethan looked at me carefully. "Grandma, who exactly is Harrison?" I opened my mouth to answer. Then, I realized something unsettling. After all these years, I did not know. The next morning, I decided to stop asking questions that other people could avoid and start looking where answers were stored. Whitmore Estate contained more than beautiful rooms and family heirlooms. It contained records, decades of them. Shortly after breakfast, I made my way to the archive room hidden behind the old library. Most family members forgot it existed. That was exactly why important things often ended up there. Dust floated through narrow beams of sunlight as I unlocked the door. Shelves stretched from floor to ceiling. Boxes were labeled by year. Trust agreements, tax filings, property transfers, family correspondence. The paper trail of an empire. I spent nearly 3 hours searching before I found something unusual. Several folders from the same period Ethan had identified were missing. Not misplaced, removed. Empty spaces remained between carefully organized records. Someone had taken specific documents and left everything around them untouched. That required knowledge, planning, access. I photographed the gaps with my phone. Later that afternoon, Sophia Reed arrived at the estate. Officially, she was reviewing routine legal matters for one of the family foundations. Unofficially, Ethan had asked her to examine some of the public records he discovered. We met privately in a small sitting room overlooking the gardens. Sophia studied the copies carefully. Her expression remained professional, but I noticed the moment her eyes paused on Harrison's name. "This is unusual," she said. "How unusual?" I asked. She placed the documents on the table. Unusual enough that someone spent years making sure nobody asked questions. The room fell silent. Outside, gardeners trimmed hedges beneath a bright blue sky. The peaceful scene felt disconnected from the tension gathering inside the house. Sophia pointed toward one entry. These authority provisions should have generated additional filings. I cannot find them anywhere. Missing documents, missing explanations, missing history. The pattern was becoming impossible to ignore. As Sophia prepared to leave, her phone buzzed. She glanced at the screen and frowned. "What is it?" I asked. "Nothing," she replied too quickly. Then she looked directly at me. "Mrs. Whitmore, has anyone else been asking about Harrison recently?" Before I could answer, movement outside the window caught my attention. Across the lawn, near the distant cottage where Harrison lived, Isabel's car had just pulled into the driveway. She stepped out carrying a thick folder beneath her arm. Moments later, Harrison opened the door and invited her inside. Neither of them noticed I was watching, and for the first time, I realized the two people who appeared most different in this family might be working toward the same goal. For the next 2 days, the estate settled into a strange rhythm. On the surface, everything appeared normal. Meals were served on schedule. Meetings continued. Guests came and went. Beneath that calm exterior, however, tension moved through the house like a silent current. Ethan felt it. So did I. Late on Thursday afternoon, Ethan arrived at my sitting room carrying a small envelope. He closed the door behind him and placed it carefully on the coffee table. "Sophia found something," he said. Inside was a copy of a laboratory report from years ago. At first glance, it looked ordinary. Then I saw the names. My eyes moved slowly across the page. One name belonged to a child. Another belonged to an adult member of our family. The relationship described in the report was not the one everyone had believed for years. I read the document twice, then a third time. The conclusion never changed. A carefully protected family narrative had been built on a false assumption. "Is this authentic?" I asked quietly. Ethan nodded. Sophia verified the source. Outside, rain tapped softly against the windows. The room felt smaller than usual. Not because of fear, because pieces were finally beginning to fit together. I thought back to countless family gatherings. Certain comments, certain tensions, certain people protecting certain secrets with unusual determination. Suddenly, many of those moments looked different. "Does anyone else know?" I asked. "Sophia, me, and now you." Ethan hesitated. "There is something else." He handed me another document. This one was older, much older. It contained correspondence connected to the family trust. Several names appeared throughout the pages. Harrison's appeared repeatedly, not as an observer, not as an employee, not as an outsider, as someone deeply connected to decisions that shaped the future of Whitmore Estate. I leaned back slowly. For years, everyone had focused attention on the wrong questions. Who controlled the money? Who would inherit the property? Who held influence over the family? The real question had been hidden beneath all of them. Who truly belonged at the center of this story? That evening, I walked alone through the main hallway. As I passed the grand staircase, I noticed a young woman standing near the entrance. Lily Morgan. She had arrived unexpectedly and appeared nervous. When she saw me, she offered a polite smile that never quite reached her eyes. Then she glanced toward Harrison's cottage. Just for a second, most people would have missed it. I did not. And in that brief moment, I became certain of something. The secret everyone feared was larger than a trust, larger than an inheritance, and larger than a single document. It was about blood, identity, and a truth that had been hidden across generations. By Friday evening, the divisions inside the family were no longer invisible. Nobody announced them. Nobody acknowledged them directly. Yet they were there. At dinner, people chose seats carefully. Conversations stopped when certain individuals approached. Trust, once broken, leaves traces everywhere. I sat beneath the chandelier and watched the fault lines widen. David arrived late. His tie was loosened, and dark circles framed his eyes. Across the table, Isabel maintained her usual composure, but something had changed. The effortless confidence she carried for years now felt strained. Twice she checked her phone. 3 times she glanced toward Thomas Bennett. Every movement suggested calculation. Every silence suggested concern. Ethan noticed it too. I could tell by the way he observed the room without participating in the conversation. Harrison remained at the far end of the table. As always, he appeared, detached from everything around him. He ate quietly. He spoke rarely. Yet somehow the entire room seemed to orbit around secrets connected to him. The irony was impossible to ignore. The man everyone treated like an outsider had become the center of every unanswered question. Halfway through dinner, David set down his fork. "We need to discuss the estate," he said. The room immediately stiffened. Isabel looked at him sharply. Victoria lowered her wine glass. Even James paused while serving coffee. "There is nothing to discuss," Isabel replied. Her voice remained calm, but the edge beneath it was unmistakable. David met her gaze. "I think there is." Nobody spoke after that. The silence felt heavier than any argument could have. Later that night, Ethan and I met in the library. Rain drifted softly against the windows. The estate felt like a ship caught in fog, moving forward without seeing what waited ahead. Ethan spread several documents across a large oak table. Property records, trust amendments, family correspondence. Piece by piece, a picture was emerging. None of us could see the entire image yet, but we could finally recognize its shape. Someone had spent years controlling information. Someone had carefully guided what each family member was allowed to know. And now those barriers were beginning to fail. As we reviewed the documents, a message appeared on Ethan's phone. It came from Sophia Reed. Only 6 words. "Thomas scheduled a family meeting tomorrow." Ethan looked up slowly. So did I. We both understood what it meant. Families do not gather lawyers on a Saturday morning for ordinary conversations. Whatever had been hidden for decades was approaching the moment when it could no longer remain hidden. And for the first time, I suspected that several people around this table were about to discover that the story they believed about their own family had never been the truth at all. Saturday morning arrived gray and cold. Clouds hung low above Whitmore Estate as family members gathered in the main dining room. Nobody seemed eager to be there. Thomas Bennett sat at one end of the long oak table with his leather briefcase resting beside him. Across from him sat David and Isabel. Victoria occupied her usual chair beneath the portrait over the fireplace. Ethan stood near the windows. I remained seated quietly, watching. Harrison arrived last. He entered without hurry and took his place at the far end of the table. For a moment, nobody spoke. Then Thomas opened his briefcase and removed a thick folder. "What I am about to discuss has remained confidential for many years," he said. The room immediately grew still. Thomas adjusted his glasses and continued. "The structure of the Whitmore Family Trust was established decades ago under conditions that only a few individuals fully understood." He slid several documents onto the table. David reached for them first. Isabel's expression tightened. Ethan moved closer. I did not need to read the pages immediately. I could already see the truth beginning to surface in their faces. Thomas explained how authority over portions of the estate had never belonged where most family members assumed. Key decisions, protections, and safeguards had been placed under Harrison's oversight long ago. Not because he was an employee, not because he was a friend, because he held a far more significant connection to the family than anyone had publicly acknowledged. Silence followed. The kind of silence that changes people. David stared at the documents. Victoria looked genuinely shaken for the first time in years. Isabel lowered her eyes. Harrison remained calm, almost relieved. Then Thomas revealed one final document. It connected the old trust records, the hidden correspondence, and the questions surrounding the family lineage. Every missing piece suddenly fit together. Years of confusion dissolved in seconds. Across the room, Ethan slowly sat down. Nobody argued. Nobody raised their voice. The truth itself was powerful enough. Harrison finally spoke. "Secrets have a way of protecting people at first," he said quietly. "But eventually they begin protecting themselves." His words settled over the room. Looking around the table, I realized the conflict had never truly been about money, property, or influence. It had been about identity, about who people believed they were, about the stories families tell until those stories become reality. The greatest surprise of all was not the secret itself. It was understanding that one innocent question from a child had accomplished what decades of silence never could. It had forced an entire family to finally face the truth.